Karen, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to Business Your Way. It's lovely to have you here. You are my first guest for 2025, so it's a pleasure to be able to talk to you today. To kick us off, you're welcome. To kick us off, I always like to hand to my guests to introduce themselves. So if you want to let us know who you are, what you do, and how you make your moolah.
Absolutely. Well, hey everyone, I'm Karen King. I am an Aussie, as you can probably tell from my accent. I am a mum of two, a wife, a serial entrepreneur, and for the last 9 years, we've been traveling full time. So we sold everything in 2016 or 15 and started traveling the world. So my business, it's varied a lot over the years since we've started traveling. But I'm the founder of Gold Star Pro, which is an all-in-one software platform. And we're just in the process of launching the Escapepreneur, which will help small business or help people escape the 9 to 5 and create a business that they can work online and create a life that they love. So my business is all about helping other people create a life that they love, just like we have.
There is so much in that I just really want to automatically dive into, Karen. That's amazing. But before we go into the questions I have around being a business owner and traveling full time and doing it over a number of years and what this new Escapepreneur looks like, I'm interested to know how you got here. Like, have you always been an entrepreneur? I know you said you are a serial entrepreneur, but what led you to this point or led you into this pathway of entrepreneurship?
I've always loved doing things for myself. I've always loved creating things and jumping on opportunities that pop up, whatever they might be. And it's been varied over the years. But I'd say I first of all, I would say I'm a terrible employee because I just naturally look for ways to improve things. And not every employer wants that. Many of them just want you to do your job and be quiet and take your money and go home. And I find that quite boring, to be completely honest. I love the challenge of the entrepreneurial life, and it explains a lot because a couple of years ago I was diagnosed with ADHD. So, that was a couple of pieces of the puzzle that came together. So yeah, I think really it's just about having the ability to create something, to follow my passions, and have an impact on the world.
And so what did you do before getting into business?
So initially I studied to be a journalist, and never really went down that path because I then went into sales and was earning a lot of money at a young age. And of course, at 20, earning $120,000 or something, I was all about the money instead of my dream job. I found out was going to be much, much lower in income. So I stuck with the sales, and then that just kind of naturally evolved into various other things. And when my husband, after I had my children, I went back to work as a retail area manager, and really enjoyed it. But life changed as a mum, so I wanted to be at home with the kids more. And all of a sudden I found myself running a cake decorating business. So yeah, it's been very, very different, all the different things I've done.
Beautiful. So moving into technology, that's like a big step, going from cake decorating over to running a technology business. So I'm interested to hear a bit about your technology business and how you made that transition from cake decorator, and I'm sure you've had a lot of other things in between that. But that's quite a contrast in business, if you like. So I'm interested to hear that story.
Well,
yeah.
At university, one of the things we did as part of the journalism degree was we started learning how to build websites. And back at that stage, there was a bit of coding involved and all of these sorts of things. And I really enjoyed it, but it was never something that I did beyond creating stuff for myself. So each new business that I started, I'd build my own website, build an online store, whatever the case may be. And when we decided to sell everything and travel the world, I needed to do something online. And at that point, the easiest thing for me to do was to build websites for people. I loved working with small business owners, helping other people that were in a similar position to myself. And what I felt at the time was that for most people, a really nice website was really expensive, too hard to do yourself. So I just kind of found my little niche doing lower cost websites. Just taught myself how to do WordPress and built some beautiful websites for people. And that naturally navigated into teaching people, which is a big passion of mine. And then as we traveled, that turned into automation because I'd much rather be traveling and exploring with my kids than being chained to my laptop. And that led into building systems for small business owners. And finally, it got to the stage where I was having, most business owners need to have 5, 6, 7 different systems. They're paying big money for systems that don't necessarily talk to each other. And then they've got to figure out how to use them all. And my experience is that the majority of small business owners are not tech savvy. They want to do what they do. And so I was doing a lot of training and a lot of support, but it was difficult because the core software was so varied. So about 5.5 years ago, I met with the development team that created the core of Gold Star Pro, and it's an all-in-one platform. I loved what they were doing, but I knew that it was still going to be way too complicated for people. So I partnered with them and used my background in training and development to create a platform where it's okay to not be techie. It's okay to not know how to do it. And it's okay to ask the silly questions. So we've built a tech company focused on people and focused on support instead of just being, all about the platform and, getting us, hundreds of thousands of users. I really wanted to create something that I really enjoy doing.
Fascinating that it was the desire to travel that turned your thoughts towards, okay, what kind of business can I do now if this is what I want to do with my life? What caused that? Well, not caused that, but what was the thinking behind we want to be a family who travels full time? Have you always been a traveler? Is that
Always enjoyed it. I was an exchange student in Bolivia for 12 months when I was 17 and really, really enjoyed that. My dad was in the Air Force when I was younger, so we moved around a lot. But I think what had happened was we'd been in the cake decorating business for 5 years, and initially it was great, but then it got to the stage where we were working really long hours. And I was working 6 days a week. By Sunday, I was absolutely exhausted. I was missing out on time with my kids. We were doing everything that society says you should do to be happy, but we weren't happy. And so at one point we said, you know what, let's just take a break. We put all the cakes, we stopped taking bookings for a little while, and we booked a holiday. We went over to South America. We did a cruise for a few weeks. We went to Disney World with the kids. And during that time, I started reading the 4-Hour Workweek. Now, in the first chapter or two, Tim Ferriss mentions 2 words, location independence. And it was this massive light bulb moment because I already loved doing things online. It had just never occurred to me that when you work online, you don't have to be in one location. And so, of course, then I went to my husband and I said, hey, you know what? We could sell everything and travel the world full time. And he thought, oh, no. So he's used to me coming up with crazy ideas. But I said, you know what? We could do this. And then, of course, all the questions come up. How are we going to educate the kids? And that's when I learnt the phrase world schooling, so educating through travel. And so it was a matter of just finding the information. And there's quite a society. We've now got a community of 13,000 families that travel as we do. And beyond building websites, when we first started traveling, I also built, a Facebook community and what was turning into a travel business. And we were ready to launch group trips with our community. We did one to Egypt and one to Indonesia in 2019. And 2020 was going to be our year of launching travel for families. And of course, the first
Mm.
one was to China in April of 2020 when the whole world shut down. So then we had to pivot. And that's where I sort of lent into being online, supporting the business owners. I went back to what I knew worked really well. And that's where, Gold Star Pro was born. So it's been quite the adventure.
I love, yeah, I love that, like the adventure of it's almost following the thread that's in front of you. So we really enjoy this. How do we change our life to make more of that and less of what we're not enjoying? Although we have a fabulous
Yeah.
life doing what we do,
Yeah.
it's interesting to listen to that journey and how you've followed that thread of potentially being a travel company.
Yeah. Well,
How old were your kids when you went traveling in 2016?
11 and 5. So my son was in grade 5, my
Oh,
daughter was in kindergarten. So she actually never started school. And it was really interesting when we pulled them out because our son had done up to grade 5 and we didn't have any concerns with the education system. He was doing quite well. We just wanted more out of life and found this as an avenue to take. But what we did discover was that when we started traveling, our son, the idea of learning for him was that thing you do at that place you have to go to for XYZ number of hours a day. Whereas our daughter was an absolute sponge. Like anything she could do, she loved. So it took a while to get out of that sort of school mindset. But ultimately,
mm,
it's turned us into a family that we're very, very inquisitive. We ask a lot of questions. The kids learned how to learn as opposed to being told, sit down, this is what you're learning today. Um, and
mm.
yeah, so it's been it's a different way of educating and a different way of them growing up. But, you know, there's pros and cons either way, isn't there?
Yeah, yeah. And how are you balancing that as business owner of a tech company,
Mhm.
and two young kids, ensuring that their core skills, and you know, just as you travel, that's going
Mm.
to be an education in itself. But how are they gathering the core learning skills along that way of and integrating that with their worldly view?
It's quite interesting, and as a mum that, as I said, I didn't have any concerns with the education system. We'd never looked at homeschooling. We'd never looked at any of that. It it took a lot for me to realize just how much kids learn just from,
Mm,
being out in the world. Kids learn to speak English without going to school, and I know firsthand it's one of the most difficult languages in the world. Um, but so being out there, my daughter learnt to count going up and down subway steps. She learnt maths because it was a fun game that I taught her when we were house sitting in Sweden. History, standing in Pearl Harbor or going to Berlin, for example. We watch a lot of YouTube documentaries, for example, when we're preparing to go to a new location. And so all of that, those core
mm,
skills that we normally sit in class and learn, um, just comes from day to day life. Cooking, learning fractions as part of cooking, maths in currency conversions when we're at the store trying to convert back into Australian or US dollars. When you actually start to dig into it, there is just so much learning that goes on just existing in the world. Um, so beyond that, in terms
mm.
of balancing all of that, it can be a little bit difficult. I'm very fortunate now that the business is at the size where I've got a really fantastic team. They've each got their part of the business that they take ownership of and are really, they do a great job and they're very proud to run their part, their little part of the business. And so I've had to get quite strict on myself and say, I'm not working 40-hour, 60-hour weeks. The whole point of traveling full time was to create a life where I didn't have to do that. but I love what I do and I love looking after my customers. So when I see an email at 11 o'clock at night, it took a long time to say, you know what, I have a team that can do that. We still have, pretty high standards regardless, but I have to block out time. This year, we are spending the winter in Bulgaria. So we decided to head to Bulgaria and ski across the winter season. And we did it last year as well. And I didn't block out that time very well. So I didn't get to ski as much as I'd like. And so this year I said, you know what, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays up until 2 o'clock, we're skiing. That's my ski time. And so I come back and I work in the afternoon or the evening, or I work longer days on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And that's probably the thing I really enjoy the most about working online in the way that I do, is that yes, the work has to be done, but I have the freedom to be able to sort of block out that time and work when I want to, when we don't have activities on, um, and so on.
Yeah. What does that look like for a working mum
Mhm.
when you've got different time zones as well? How are you navigating that piece of when to work, when to have time with the family, when your team needs you? What does that look like?
Again, I'm really fortunate that I don't like to micromanage at all. So I teach my team what they need to know and I empower them to make decisions. We have a Slack channel, so they are, for the most part I'm available to them on Slack all the time, unless I'm, halfway down a ski slope, for example. But they know those are times where that I'm not available, and for the most part there's not a lot of emergencies that come up. um, so I guess putting things in place so that I can be contactable, but then blocking time out. So we as a team, we meet once per week. I meet with my assistant twice per week. I meet with my tech support manager once per week. And so, I have segmented times. I do calls with customers and with my team on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So when I am working on Monday, Wednesdays and Fridays, that's time when I can just focus on whatever it is I need to do and not be jumping all over the place, which as entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
as especially as solopreneurs, we tend to do, that so much because we're wearing so many different hats. So really
Yeah.
blocking things out, and this is still pretty new to me. I started working with a coach about a year ago, and the first thing they said was, you need to block out your time. And I said, but I've been traveling for 8 years and I love the freedom of just doing what I want when I want. And honestly, as someone who has kind of held on to that freedom, it's worked so well to block the time during the week. And so, yeah, I have my ski times, I have my call times, and then I have project time, and I'm far more effective doing it that way.
Mm, beautiful. What was that mindset shift that you had to move or, think differently about that? I enjoy my freedom and I just love to roll with how I'm feeling and what needs to get done versus quite a structured block
Mm.
your time out, differentiate between work time and non work time. What was the kind of mindset shift that you had to make
It
that
wasn't.
work for you?
Yeah, it hadn't been working as well as I wanted it to. I wasn't being as
Mm,
productive as I wanted to. And so I'd started working with this coach because I wanted to make changes. And to be honest, I fought it. Like when I first started, they wanted me to map out every 15 minutes of my day for 2 or 3 days in a row. And that was painful. But I said, you know what? I'm paying these guys big money to help me change my business and change my life. And so I set the timer, and every 15 minutes I wrote down what I'd done. And it was really interesting to see what I had done, what I needed to do, the tasks that I didn't need to do. And so from there, a lot of those tasks got fed to my team. And that freed up
mm,
so much time. So to be able to say, I've now got 3 hours uninterrupted to get this project done. And for a little while, the team took a bit to get used to it because they'd message me and say, oh, this has popped up. And I'm like, well, you know what? It's not urgent. It's not on my schedule today. I will schedule it for, one other day this week. Like I really had to force myself to stick with it. But it's so much, I was so much more productive being able to
mm.
have those 2 or 3 hours to really dig in. And again, especially because I'm ADHD, when I get into that zone and I'm not interrupted, I can get so much done. But with or without ADHD, when you're constantly jumping from thing to thing to thing, you never really get anything done 100%. You are constantly, in between things, and it takes time to pivot. If we start over here and then we pivot, it takes us a few minutes to get into this, and then we try to go back, and we're losing so much time just jumping between things. So as much as I tried to hold on to my freedom, they were right, I was wrong. And I highly recommend doing it.
Yeah. It makes a difference when you're ready to make that move, when you are ready to make the shift to be more productive, to find a different way or a better way to make your business work. That makes a world of difference as well. Tell us
Absolutely.
about your team.
Sorry, my team?
Tell us about your team. What does team look like for you?
We have an amazing company we work with that does all of our support. So we have a 24/7 support, like live chat for all of our users, which is really important to me because a lot of our users are not techie. When they're stuck in the middle of something, maybe they've forgotten how to change the button to a blue color, or, whatever the case may be, I wanted people to be able to get that support when they need it. So we've got a team that does that. But my core team at the moment is 3, although we've just brought on a 4th person. Essentially, one manages the accounts and the customers in terms of the sort of day-to-day running of the business. One of my team, she was my very first one-on-one client. So I worked with her, teaching her how to do the tech in her business. And we just got along so famously. And we are so alike in so many ways. And she loves the tech side of things. So she actually came on board and started teaching that one-on-one program, which freed me up to go and move into some other areas. And then she was getting a lot of questions about sort of a done for you type service. We do a lot of coaching. Our core focus is coaching people how to grow their business. But of course we get people that just want us to do it for them. And so she started looking after that as well. And then she brought in somebody else to support her, and they've become our tech support manager. So that person now, again, has taken so much off my plate. Instead of me being the one that has to follow up on tickets and ongoing issues and things like that, I now have someone that I can say, look, so-and-so's having a problem. Can you follow up, manage that? Even when I have a problem, if something's not working for me, I just create a quick little video, send it over to her, and she goes and figures it out and comes back to me. So yeah, it's lovely because for me, it's been about working out what components I don't want to do. And as I said a moment ago, when I tracked my time, there was so much that I was just spending time doing that it didn't have to be me. So identifying those roles and then delegating them to someone else, and then looking at what's left and filling that time, but then doing that exercise again. And what I found after I delegated a lot of these things to my assistant, I realized I was spending a lot of time following up with some tech support issues. And so that's when I brought in this other team member to manage that. And that really gives me the time to do so many other things, which is awesome because now I'm in a space where I can really grow the business and really look to the future, knowing that the core things that need to be done on a day-to-day basis are being handled.
Mm. Talk to me a little bit about the development of your software. How does that work? So if I heard you right, the team that you've got now are focused on the implementation, they're client focused, helping your customers use your software to the fullest to make sure that it's really working inside of their business and they're able to grow with it.
Yeah.
But let's switch gears a little bit and talk about how's the development of the tech side work and what does that team look like? Is that you? Is that someone with those core specific skills?
Yeah, exactly. So we partnered with a development team who have built the core software, And then, so, I mean, I love the tech side of things, but I'm not a coder. Wouldn't, really, that what I have learned over the years, I've taught myself. So we're fortunate that we've got an amazing company that we work with who create that core software, and then we add our passion on top of that, which is the support, is the training, is the, I guess, the simplification, because there's so many software platforms on the market,
Mm.
but the problem is that it's still tech, and you can have the most amazing software in the world, but without the right training and the right support, it's just a piece of software. And so for me, I the that company works on the software. I just focus on the coaching, the support, the training, the step-by-step videos, um, and just doing whatever I can to really take something that it's a complicated system in the sense that it replaces the need for like 20 other platforms. So when a new person joins, they get in there and they say, wow, like this is a lot. And yes, it is, but we have to simplify that and make it easy for them to take steps. And so we've got a lot of training. We've got a lot of, tutorials and step-by-step videos where really people don't have to figure much out themselves. They just watch me click a button and they click the button. And by the end they're, they come out the other side.
Mhm. How do you get like improvements to the software? Do you have any control over, how the software is developing, or that development company is, looking after that? You're
They
just looking after the user end.
They do a lot of that, but certainly, as we work with our clients, we feed back to the team. They're very responsive to what's needed by the end user. So we feed back to them regularly anything that we're seeing. But as I said, software development is not my area of expertise. So I try to stay in my lane and really just focus on how teaching people how to use it and helping them when things go wrong, because it's tech. It doesn't again, it could be the best software in the world, but it's still tech, and tech just,
Mm.
those tech gremlins get in there sometimes and just, make it difficult for all of us. But when you are in that position, when you've got a team like, in our case, our users have a team behind them that they can reach out to and say, hey, this has happened, and we can sort of, support them in that when things happen. So
Okay. And talk to me a little bit about who is your ideal client? Who are the clients that you are working with, or what's the ideal client who would need this software in their business?
So we've just gone through this exercise again just recently, because we did end up, like so many business owners do, we sort of launched and we started going down one path, and then we started sort of veering this way, and then somebody else wanted this. So we were doing a lot of different things. So about a year ago, when I started working with the new coaching program, we went back to basics and said, all right, who is it that we really enjoy working with? And what I have realized over the years is that's absolute key. To enjoy what you're doing, you need to figure out who it is that you love to work with. And so we work with predominantly solopreneurs and small business owners, which I guess hasn't changed all that much over the years, because that's where I started helping with the websites. But essentially, it's what I find most often is that it's somebody that's got an established business, or somebody that's at least proven their concept. And they're doing a lot of it themselves. They've probably tried multiple different pieces of software, as we all do. And they've kind of ended up in a bit of a mess because, as I said earlier, most business owners are not techie, and you sort of start building your systems bit by bit, and someone says, oh, you need an email list, so you go over and you find a platform that'll do that. And then someone says, oh, you need automation, so you go over and get that. And then you need a website and funnels and all of these various pieces, and you end up with lots of different platforms that don't talk to each other, that aren't actually doing the things that you need. And it just gets to the stage where, for most business owners, that that we work with, most kind of find themselves in a position where they love the core of what they do, but they find themselves in the position of doing a lot of stuff that they really didn't sign up for. They're not making as much money as they actually need, or they can't scale because there's not enough hours in the day because they're doing so much in their business. And they're not techie enough to know how to make it any better. So we have a lot of people that are not techie. And when they find us, it's almost like this sense of relief because it's an all in one platform. So there's only one platform to learn, and it all talks to each other. So you can build the systems bit by bit, and simplify business. Which, once they're able to simplify, cut out all the excess that maybe they've built up over time, figure out their processes and how to get the system to do the things that they personally don't need to do, all of a sudden there's extra time in the day to actually start thinking, well, how am I going to grow this business, and to get back to the things that they enjoy doing, whether it's fitness coaching or nutrition coaching, or whatever the case may be. They get out. We help them get out of the day-to-day stuff and get back into the thing that they love to do.
So the people you're mostly working with are service providers who are trading their time for dollars and running out of hours in the day, and helping them put some tech behind that so they can free up time.
Yes and no. A lot of them are in the. We work with a lot of coaches and course creators. So many people start off in the sort of one-on-one coaching, and so then they're at the stage where, hey, I want to start doing this as a group coaching, for example, and have a bigger impact without having to do more time. But we've also got various different people. We've got an asphalt company. We've got a range of sort of, well, I guess, service based, but more sort of bricks and mortar type businesses. But we do a lot with coaches and course creators that are packaging their knowledge and selling it and teaching it to an audience.
Beautiful. And so talk to me now, because now I'm curious about what are all the things that Gold Star Pro does. So, I think from what you've just said, I pick up that maybe there's some emailing in there. If it's course creators, there's maybe a learning platform in there, some automation on how people sign up to attend different things. So talk to me about all the little pieces that come together in the one platform that makes it, really valuable for businesses.
What I tell people these days is, other than Zoom, there's really not much that a business owner needs outside of the platform. So when a new person comes in, they typically need a website and a sales funnel, for example, so that they can sell their products. So websites, funnels, forms, and surveys so that people can collect information, and all of that ties into an automation suite which ties into email marketing, for example. So that whole realm of, instead of just being one piece of the puzzle, it's all the different pieces of a complete system. So then beyond that, contact management, which is something that most business owners really struggle with, from moving from spreadsheets and, messaging via email over here and WhatsApp and like all the different places. We centralize all of that into one place. There's a full history of all the conversations, all the data that's been collected about somebody, all of the payments that they've made. And then, of course, as I said, all of the automation, that's my favorite part of the system because it gives you your time back. And then the learning side of it, so the course creation. We also now have communities, which replaces the need for the likes of a Facebook group, for example. Facebook group reach has plummeted so much over recent years, and so we now have the ability for people to build their own community inside of the platform as well. Even as far as things like document signing, the whole process of bringing somebody in, introducing them to your business with an online presence, selling them the product. So obviously product management, receipts, invoices, all of those sorts of things, even to social media. So we have a full social media scheduler in there as well. So we all know how important social media is, but it can take a lot of time and it can be a little painful. So inside of the platform, you can literally schedule all of your content as far out as you want to as many different platforms as you might have, and it allows people to sort of to bulk schedule their content for, say, a month, and then forget about that and go off and do whatever else they need for the month, knowing that their social media presence is working as intended. So yeah, it's kind of what I tell our users is that if there's something you need to do in it, ask first, because the answer is typically yes, you can do that. Here's how, or not just yet, but it'll be here soon. So there's not a lot missing.
Right. I love that all the communication is in one place. So
Mm.
whether it's like direct messaging on social media or email or text messaging, is that all integrated?
Yeah, Facebook messages, Instagram messaging, email, obviously, SMS, WhatsApp, um, all of it in one central location. And what I really enjoy is that you're not jumping from platform to platform to platform. And again,
Mm.
that takes us back to that the amount of time you're spending jumping between these platforms. And we all know that we end up on social media and lose time, which I never do. But inside of the platform, it's all in one central place. And there's a counter bubble. So when a new message comes in, it'll say one. And so you don't have to keep going back in there and checking if there's new messages. And we regularly get comments from people saying, wow, you were so quick to get back to me. And in all honesty, it's just that little bubble that pops up and says there's a new message. So I don't have to think about it until I see that. And then on top of that, like we have task management as well. So when messages come, like if there's things that you can automate that set up tasks for staff as well, and like it just as whatever might make sense for someone's business, they can do inside.
Beautiful. So when you say, signing of documents, so you can
Mm,
send a proposal from within
yeah,
there and your client could sign the proposal and same with
yeah.
contract?
And also fully automated as well. So if, for example, I'm selling a program, somebody purchases the program, and then I need them to be able to sign an agreement. So we can automatically embed their name and the date and all of that information. It goes out to them, they sign it, it comes back, they get a digital copy, we get a digital copy, and
Mm,
yeah, all of it built right in.
that's beautiful. Like that sounds like it would serve like a huge range of different types of businesses,
Yeah,
because in my
definitely.
experience, people are saying proposals are dead, but from a service provider point of view, usually
Hmm.
it's the proposal that is the conversion point for
Yeah,
most service providers. And I think
absolutely.
that's still going to be around for a long time to come, but it's just how we can take advantage of technology, making that a
Mm.
lot easier than it has been in the past.
So we can go from something like a proposal that when it's accepted automatically becomes an invoice, and when the invoice is paid can automatically send them an email welcoming them to whatever it is that's been sold, push them into a course or a community, or send them an invite to a calendar link, which I didn't mention before. We have full calendar functionality in there as well. So again, it's what I always say to people is work out what you need the process to be. And this is one of the big things that people get wrong. They go into a software platform thinking, well, I need a funnel, and they build the funnel based on what they can figure out. What I always tell our users is figure out what you need your process to be. And then if you don't know how to make that happen, jump into the community and say, all right, this is what I want to do. How do I make the software fit my process instead of the other way around? And that, in all honesty, that's that's one of the keys to being able to use software without ending up in a big mess.
I couldn't agree more. Like, we need to know how to add before we can use a calculator. You know, the
Yeah,
calculator
yeah,
is useless unless we know the formula or the sum, the calculation that we want to put into it. So same with business is,
hmm,
what are we trying to do in our business? What's the strategy? What is
yeah.
the steps that we want to lead our client through or a prospective client through? And then come and use the technology to make that quicker,
Yeah.
smarter, more automated, less time on you as the human in the process.
When we build a process out for our business, it's always going to evolve. Things are going to change in our business. We're going to identify new issues that might pop up along the way. But when you've mapped it out and you can get the core things automated and happening on autopilot, then we can tweak it and solve the other issues that pop up.
Mm, beautiful. What does your business look like moving forward? So, what's your plan for the next 5, 10 years?
I'm so glad you asked that question because literally today we've made a huge change in what we're doing moving forward. As I've sort of, talked about so many times on this call, my passion is coaching and supporting. The software is amazing. For the last 4.5 years, we've been software led with amazing support and amazing coaching. The problem that I find is that we're up against all the other platforms and people don't understand everything that we give them until they're inside. So we're actually going to start to
Mm,
pivot and coach first with an amazing platform. So Gold Star Pro will be the tool that people will use, but we're launching the Escapepreneur, which will be a 12-month coaching program designed to do everything that we've talked about on this call today, help people create a business that they love, doing something that they love so that they can live a life that they love, I guess. So, yeah, I'm really
mm,
excited for this next chapter because we've got an amazing software platform. I just want to be in front of more people. I want to help more people and have a bigger impact on the world. I'm tired of people saying, "Oh, I wish I'd known about you 2 years ago." So we're really sort of going to focus on what we've built our reputation around, the support and the coaching, um, and yeah, try and reach more people.
beautiful. Is your escapepreneur helping people transition into that life they want? You know, thinking back on
Mm,
your story around deciding to wanting to go to travel, how could you use your website skills to create a business online that would move into the lifestyle that you wanted to have? So is the escapepreneur going to help people transition their skill set into
mm.
something that fits with their life, or have they already nutted that out by the time they come into the escapepreneur?
It could really be both. One of the big questions I've always
Mm,
had when I first tell people about our lifestyle, they say, "Oh, well, that's great if you've got the money," or "How do I make it work? How do I afford to do it?" So that's always been something I've wanted to create because we all have skills that can transfer if you know how. So that's something I'm really passionate about, but it's also about our core audience for Gold Star at this point has been, like I said, that person who already has a business, but it's just not what they always dreamed of. They've launched this business because they've got a great
mm,
idea. It's something that they love, but they've ended up creating sometimes, a monster that kind of takes over their lives. So whether it's something new or it's an established business that they want to simplify and scale, be able to earn more and work less using tech as something that helps instead of hindering, the coaching program will walk through those components and all of those core functionality that I mentioned inside of the platform, we'll walk through that over 12 months. And everybody comes in at a different time, so they'll have access to the different components and they'll be able to work through whatever is right for their business at the time with a ton of support along the way.
That sounds like an amazing program.
I can't wait. I'm
all right,
so
as
excited.
As we bring our episode and our conversation, to a close today, there's one question that I ask all of my guests, and that is, what are 3 things that you would want to share with other business owners who are growing a service-based business?
The first one, and I think we've touched on some of these along the way, the first one is understand your processes. Understand what is the perfect process for your business and your customer. Do that before you start thinking about the software, because you can't know what you need the software to do until you know what your business needs to do. And I think if we build it software first, we don't end up with the most ideal process for our customers. The other thing that I would say is keep it simple. And I am so guilty of overcomplicating. Start with one product, one process, like make it easy, create a system that sells and push people through, get that working, earn money. And once that's working and you can take some time to step back, then add other things in. Don't do what so many do. And again, I'm so guilty of this. Don't follow the whims of what people want. Oh, this could be really good. This will earn me more money. And then this will earn me more money. Because at the end of the day, you just dilute what you're doing. And I think the third point is related to that. But when you are using tech, one thing at a time, don't go into a piece of tech and try to build 5 different systems at once, because the biggest thing that gets in people's way is overwhelm. And what I see all too often is people start using the software, not just our software, any software, and you get 2, 3, 6 months down the track and they're so frustrated because it's not working. And the reality is they've gone in and they've tried to build 3, 4, 5 different systems and they've never finished one of them. So there is no way that the software can do what you need it to do. So I always tell people, write a list of everything that you need to build, whether that's a sales funnel or a freebie site. Figure out what you want to build and go and build one of those. Get that finished, let it work for you, and then go and build the second one. And honestly, if everybody just did that when they were starting to use technology would be way, way easier to use, because you would actually see the result of the effort that you're putting in.
Very wise words. I love that advice. Karen, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. Your business journey and how you run your business and live your life is truly inspiring. So thank you so much. If there is one place where you hang out, where listeners might be able to reach out to you and just chat, where would that one place be?
For now, I'd say head over to usegoldstar.com. There, we've got a live chat widget on the page. And if people have got questions, want to connect with me, that's probably the easiest at this point in time. I am not great at social media. My passion is looking after people. I get on social media and I get lost. And so it's not something I do well yet, but I look after my customers well. So head over, and if you've got any questions, let me know.
That's lovely. Again, thank you, Karen. I have really enjoyed our conversation today, and I'm sure the listeners will have gained a lot of insight to what goes on behind a business and how you're operating a business as you're traveling the world and spending time with your kids. Truly inspiring. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.